Hey, Damon. Okay, I think we've got a quorum. We'll go ahead and get started. This is the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board meeting for Tuesday, June 18th. It is 6:01 p.m. And let's go ahead and do a quick roll call. Jim Block, Jim, present. Aye. Sarah Fajardo,
I'm here.
uh, Luz Nagel,
I'm here.
and Damon.
Damon's here.
All right, and Rick McDonald present. So we have a quorum. Second item up on the agenda is the approval of the LAR from last meeting. Uh, has everybody had a chance to take a look at it? Okay, so motion to approve.
This is Damon. I motion to approve.
All right, Damon motions to approve. Do I have a second?
This is Lou. I second.
Lou, and all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, 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 unanimous. Perfect. Okay, item 3, call to the audience. I believe we do have a call to the audience. Jody, is that correct?
We do have a call to the audience. He sent a letter and I forwarded it to you all. I can read it into the record, but he would also like the opportunity to speak.
Point of order.
Jim, are you raising your hand?
Point of order.
Yeah.
So call to the audience is for items that are not on the agenda that are of general discussion for the board. I believe that this call to the audience item relates to an item on the board and may be more appropriate to have it heard at that time.
Well, I don't mind deferring it to item 4. You all right with that, Jody?
That's fine.
Okay, all right, so we'll defer Mr. Riggins' letter and discussion until we get to item 4B on the agenda. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to the reviews, starting with item 4A, 444 East University Avenue, TS SGN 05240002, time market. And who is going to speak for that? Is that you, Peter, or someone else?
I think Jude is going to do the speaking, but I'm here if there's any questions that need to be answered.
Okay, Jude.
All right, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us here. What we're looking to do is recreate the sign that was on the Time Market. Peter, how long ago was that?
Well, the sign was there sometime at least as early as the 1930s. But I only have a few pictures, I think, from the early 40s of the sign.
Sorry to interrupt. Jude, would you like to share your screen to show the plans, or would you like me to do that?
You better do it because I'm not that skilled.
Oh,
Well, she's calling that up, Jude. Could I have your last name, please?
It's Cook, C-O-O-K.
Okay, that's easy. Thank you.
Sorry, my computer's slow. And here's actually, this is a better one. Well, here's this one. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so what we're looking to do is recreate the sign that we actually have a picture a couple of pages down, but this is a pretty accurate reproduction of it. It's going to have exposed neon on it. It does have a clock in it. The clock historically would have had a halo of neon around the inside of it. You know, it's size-wise, we're trying to replicate what was there originally. This is the original photo of it, and that's what we're That's what we've worked from. It's gonna be projecting. It's gonna be probably in the right of way just a little bit, but we'll address that with the TRE. Color wise, we only have a black and white to work with. And back in that period of time, pretty much it probably has clear red neon in part of it. By 1940, there was a few more colors available at that point, but we're going to stay in a fairly limited palette. Color of the sign itself, right now we've got it as a beige and black. I would like to try to incorporate a little more color than that, because I think it would have had more than just the limited palette, but we started there. It's an aluminum construction. Got a question there?
Oh, sorry. No, that was me.
Okay. At this point, do you guys have any questions? This is basically what we're trying to reproduce.
So no questions from the board on this? I know we did a courtesy review probably, last year on this.
Yeah.
So Judy, are you saying you are going to stick with the beige and black, or are you contemplating other color scheme, or?
I would definitely explore some other colors. Is that something we need to bring back through you? I don't think it's going to get wild, but I would, based on what I've seen in the past, it seems like there would be a stronger color than beige in there. The black, because it's a black and white photo, could have been red, could have been blues, could have been black. I'd like to have a little freedom as far as color choices, when we get closer to that. I have a hard time believing there's anything that would really, offend anybody as far as colors here. I don't have a good recommendation. I figured we would just work with color until we came up with a combination we were happy with. Do you guys have any input there?
Question for Jody, maybe. Are colors really of our importance from our perspective in this case? I mean, I can paint my house whatever color I want, but I would imagine in this case, colors are something that we should be commenting on. And all I would comment maybe, in the historic photo that you showed, we did see a big time market sign on the sign of the building. There we go. And boy, I mean, not to say that we know what color that was, but it would be fun to see if they could maybe chip the paint off and see what colors it may have been, and then maybe make and then speak to that with respect to the colors you on the sign. But I have no issues with respect to color. Go as crazy as you want. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I have any issue with color either, for that matter, because and then I believe if you go back to the first, Jude, if you go back to the first chart, you were talking last time we met about, removing that existing cabinet.
Correct.
Which I know you haven't done yet.
No.
And the attachment of the sign, the new sign, is going to be a little different than what we see in the picture. So you're going to bolt that straight into the, I assume that's brick wall.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to go through the wall and have reinforcers behind that. I'm gonna have to default to what engineering requires of us to do there. We've done at least a starting point here, but yeah, I'm not comfortable with what was up on the wall originally anyway. I'd feel better if we had more structure than what is in the photo. So yeah, we'll be being sure that we've got engineering that will give us the right connection to the building.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Rick. I thought I scrutinized that. I'm the engineer, the civil engineer on the on the board, and the previous bracket and this bracket both respect the panel behind it. That if you look today, it says time market. In the historic photo, of course, it pixelates before you zoom in that much, but it says time market as well. So both of them have the sign sticking out far enough so you can still see the time market sign on the window behind the sign. So I'm comfortable with whatever the structural engineers require of you. I do like the cantilever alternative that you're showing on your plans as opposed to the diagonal bracing that they showed in the historic perspective from my view. Thank you.
Any
got-
other?
Well, I've got one small thing to throw out, and we missed it until about an hour and a half ago. On this illustration you've got, sign's actually backward. That sawtooth is supposed to be out towards the street. They just grabbed the original image because the brackets all are on the long straight side on the back. Just pointing that out. We were already aware of that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this drawing we're looking at right now is not accurate.
Yeah, the actual sign will be flipped horizontally, mirrored horizontally, so that the sawtooth is towards the street, not towards the building.
Yeah, Rick, I had them do this drawing and I totally missed that. But
I
to
didn't do
show
it.
to show that these little stucco elements that stick out won't be impacted by the sign, that the brackets will be on either side of those, and that the little shed roof, the clay tile shed roof that comes down, will also be a little bit away, 5.4 inches away from the sign. So even though this sawtooth is on the wrong side, it's still the measurements are going to be correct.
So it's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you're so
exactly.
good with the drawing.
Isn't
Oh.
it beautiful?
Great.
It's-
Wow.
We'll sell it that way.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with what you're presenting personally, and I do appreciate that you're going to, avoid those little raised stucco bars. Do we, Jody, is it okay for us to defer to later engineering exactly how this attaches, or do we need to actually kind of weigh in on that at this point? I'm comfortable with not weighing in on it.
No, I mean, you're comfortable, sorry, you're fine to not weigh in on it. I mean, the point of this was to show that it's not going to impact the decorative stucco pop outs that are right there, and not going to impact the shed roof. So if it's your preference, your prerogative to make a motion that says that you prefer these straight attachments versus I forgot what Jim called them, the long arms that were there historically. You can say that.
Tripod, yeah.
Yeah.
Cantilever.
I'm prepared to make a motion to indicate that, Rick, if you're and to offer that nuance.
Okay, let me just make sure there's no further discussion from the board members. Anybody else have any other comments?
Not from me.
All right. Hearing none, Jim?
I move we accept the plans as proposed with the sawtooth elements being on the street side, and that the structural brackets be cantilevered as shown as opposed to the historic diagonal support presented.
This is Sarah Fajardo. I second the motion.
All right. I just want to make sure I'm capturing Jim's stuff. All right, we have a motion and a second discussion.
Yeah, this is Damon. I was going to bring up the way we did the motion. I think it sort of limits them if they wanted to go back to that other mounting method. I think theoretically they'd have to come back. So
Right.
I just want to make sure that's our intent.
Yes, that's my intent. I don't want to go back to a diagonal or anything that would necessarily impede the view of the stucco relief on the building where today the time market is printed on the side of the building. So thank you, Damon. That's a good clarification. So I think my motion, as stated, stands.
I think I would just, if I may, amend it slightly to say attached as proposed, pending comments from engineering or something to that effect, in case there's just some reason the bolts need to be slightly different or another bracket needs to be put in place so that we don't have to come back for that.
Within the limitations of the structural engineer's recommendations, maybe is how I would amend it. So,
all right, you want to try saying it again?
Okay, yes. I approve the plans as presented with the sawtooth elements being on the street side, utilizing the horizontal cantilever structural elements as presented to the extent that the structural engineer does not need to significantly modify them to accommodate the weight of the sign. You opened it up for me to get more verbose, sorry.
That's okay. I think, all right, so plans is presented with sawtooth reversed on the one drawing, horizontal cantilever, as long as horizontal cantilever, as long as is acceptable to structural engineering without significant deviation from what we're seeing. Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Sarah. I still second.
You still second. Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
All right. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, guys. Good luck and have fun with the colors. We're not commenting on the colors.
Real good. Very good. Thank you guys a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate your
All right.
time.
Take care.
I look forward to seeing it.
You too.
Okay, that brings us to item 4B. And before we proceed with item 4B on the agenda, we'll come back to Scott. If you're still there, oh, there you are, Scott. And the call to the audience comments. I don't know, did everyone on the board have a chance to read Scott's letter?
yes.
Okay, so we don't, unless it's necessary, Jody, and I don't think it is, we don't need to read the letter into the record, do we?
No, this is not a hearing, so you don't have to read it into the record.
Oh, good.
He has requested the opportunity to speak, though. I'm just
That
letting you know.
is perfectly fine. So Scott, go ahead.
Scott, you have to unmute to go ahead.
Here we are. Okay, I believe I'm unmuted now.
Yes.
Okay. Chairperson McDonald and members, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to this redevelopment case. I have, since it is directly behind me, I've been watching it as it's been going through its iterations here for quite some time, and I've been very pleased at what's going on there. I think it's a lovely way to redevelop a piece of the historic district, and the opportunity to save the historic homes and putting them into this context, I believe is a win-win in all directions. Wish I didn't have anything to say about it that was to its detriment, but there is one situation that I feel truly needs to be addressed at this point in time. One thing about my letter, I apologize, in all spots in my letter, I referred to the northwestern corner of the parcel, and it is not the northwestern corner that we are talking about. It's the northeastern corner. So it is the corner that is bounded by the northern alley and Jacobus. In the site plan, there are 4 spaced perpendicular parking spots that enter in through the 18-foot alley between my residence and the proposed redevelopment. there just frankly is not anywhere near enough space in that alley to not absolutely be knowing that somewhere in the future there's going to be car strikes against my residents. It's too tight. It's too tight a situation there. The interesting concept is the master bedroom for the entire property there is indeed bounded on the southern wall against the alley, and in the fourth parking spot, the one furthest to the west, I've got about 8 inches of block protecting me from anything that happens where I sleep, where these parking lots are being proposed. I do believe that it strictly is too tight of a spot. It would not be a difficulty whatsoever to preserve 2 of those spots by aligning them to pull in from Jacobus. So the spots would be still, 2 spots would still be in the northeastern corner. The 2 spots would be accessed and pulled into from Jacobus, which is 26.4 feet, which would present no difficulties. There's a great deal other parking arrangements on Jacobus in that same fashion. But I would certainly try to give my my hardest recommendations to the West University Historic Zone Association to please see that doing it the way that they have proposed, it is just a matter of time and how many times my residents will be struck by cars trying to negotiate a very tight turn into 9-foot wide perpendicular spots, particularly when somebody's trying to get into the last spot. If you know, it's a given, it's going to happen. It's not something that I think anybody can see won't. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to the association.
Thank you. I appreciate your concern. Jody, has the city, does the city have requirements or analyses that they do when they're looking at situations like this with turn radiuses and such into parking spots? Are there?
Yeah, so it's funny. We were having this conversation earlier today. Lauren Seamus, who is the project manager, the city assigned project manager for this, was talking to somebody on Noel's team, I think it was Joe, that by right they can actually park on their parcel. And so if they are required to have a certain number of spots on their parcel, if they remove some of these spots, they would have to do an IPP, independent parking plan. I think that's what the IPP stands for.
Yeah.
But yeah, by right, they can park there. She gave me the code citation. If you want it, I can dredge that up.
I was actually just looking at this for another project, and usually it's a 20-foot width is required, but if it's an alley, they let it be 18. So
18 feet?
yeah, 18 feet. And if the alley's 18 feet, then having that directly behind it is technically allowed. Maybe a solution could be sought to look at doing diagonal spots with like one-way directional flow. That tends to be easier and a little bit less deep of a parking spot. You know what I'm talking about? Those like slanted spots versus like per the code, essentially they're meeting what they need to, even though it's going to be challenging to pull in and out of. So you can ask them to change it. They don't necessarily have to. So I'm saying what might be a good solution is looking at like a diagonal spot, if they have the space for that.
Noel, have you looked at diagonal spots?
Chairman Donald, not diagonal spots. So one of the challenges we do have here is the tightness. But I believe, Scott, I think Joe had a chance to chat with you a bit. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And we did go back to Chuck with the Rick Engineering to take a look at kind of detailing this and seeing what could be done within the constraints we're dealing with. And if I can share this real briefly
Oh,
here.
wait, if
Oh,
you're gonna
sorry.
share a screen, I have to like let you.
Oh, yeah, I got a lot of slides, Jody. Come on, you know me.
Well, I don't know who's gonna be doing it. The city's all had some freaky stuff, so now we have
No,
to
no
let
problem.
you.
Well, it's probably a good reason to make sure I'm limited too. So let's see, there we go. So what I think this will work. There we go. So I had Chuck and Chuck's here with us, can answer any questions, but so we were able to get a little bit of extra space in that stall depth. So with the 18-foot stall, there's actually an extra.
No, it's still sitting in my car.
Oh, can we see?
It's hilarious. You were trying to look more handsome on the
Hello?
Zoom call.
Someone's,
Sorry, I got an extra.
someone
yeah.
needs to mute.
I muted Davis, and your screen is, you kind of see maybe not the parking spots as well, if you want
Yeah,
to
they're a little
scroll
off.
it up
They're
a little bit.
off. Yeah, it should be kind of gray, and you can see the existing home. Is that showing up okay? It doesn't
Yeah.
catch. Yeah. Okay. So and Chuck's here to answer your questions, but basically had him look at the alleyway itself being the 18 feet. It's approximately 2 feet from the edge of the alley to Mr. Riggins' residence. And then the stalls themselves, 18 feet, but he was able to pick up an extra 2. So basically you have an 18-foot stall. And then on our property, we have that extra 2 feet, which would then get you 2 feet to the property line. And then if Mr. Riggins was willing, Capstone would be able to install some bollards along this portion at the property line here and set those in. A smidge on the property would probably be best to give it a little bit more room, but that would be at a distance that if someone was to be making a backing motion, for example, they would end up hitting, bumping into a bollard rather than the residents, because do share the concern about being a little tight in here. And so that's what we were hoping would satisfy that concern if he was amenable to the bollard solution. Again, it's one of those challenging balancing acts. We're dealing with old infrastructure, alleyways, obviously at a smaller size. One of the things we had to address on the relocation side as well. So, but it is what I call somewhat urban condition. So hopefully no one's trying to park too many F-150s in here and have more city appropriate cars. But so that was what we were able to do, and happy to answer any questions on that. But that would be an option we could do by picking up a couple extra feet here by pushing those spaces in a little bit, and obviously the bollard solution as well.
Okay, thank you, Norm. So what you're proposing, by pushing the spaces in, even though you're adding the bollards, you'd still have the 18 feet in the alleyway for turn?
Correct. Yeah, Chairman, we would have the 18-foot stall, 2 extra feet, and then the alleyways. You have 20 feet, and then the 18-foot parking stall as well. So it'd pick up an extra 2 feet, which gets it makes it just a little bit more space there. And as staff noted, typically they like to see a 20-foot. So that, obviously they allow it in the 18 condition because you have to deal with the existing. But I think with that and by adding the bollard elements, that should help avoid the concern, because nobody wants anything bad to happen there with that relationship. So Capstone would definitely be willing to install those bollards if Mr. Riggins was amenable to that, because it would be kind of on the property line right there. So.
All right. This kind of for the board, I'm not sure. Any comment from board members?
Yeah,
Damon?
I wanted to clarify one thing. This is Damon. I wasn't sure the gentleman who spoke. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Scott, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you said that there's a fence there protecting you or not? I'm trying to look online. It looks like there is not. Is that
I
correct?
don't think there is.
Yeah, I believe the home is the boundary of protect, that would be the enclosure of the lot, and there's a little bit of space.
Okay,
between that.
yeah, that's what I concluded also. And then I
Yeah.
also wanted to ask, there are some, yeah, so his building is offset from the property line by some amount?
At least 2
Okay.
feet, yeah.
Yeah, there's also some utility poles in that area. Did you guys take that into account?
On that alley, unnamed alley?
Yeah, at that corner by Scott's house, it would be the southeast corner of his property, I believe. Assuming I'm looking at the right Google Maps imagery here. There's a couple poles, a steel one and a wood one. And it looks like that may cause some additional challenges with kind of backing in and getting into these spots. I was just curious if you guys had noticed that or thought about it, or if you have any comments on it.
As far as those specific poles, Chuck, I know when you did the layout, it was trying to balance all, obviously the houses and the parking. I don't know if there's anything specific about those other than just they are on the edge of the alleyway. Is that correct, Chuck?
That's correct. It's Chuck Martin from Rick Engineering.
Yeah, I don't
So
see them reflected on the drawing, drawings I see, the poles.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they, I think they to some degree support some of Scott's concerns. It seems like that it could create challenges with backing out of those spots, the two eastmost ones. There's actually 3 poles. One of them looks like a piece of conduit for grounding, but I guess I'm wondering if there's more that can be done to alleviate some of the gentleman's concerns.
I'm just making a couple notes here.
I think actually, as I look at your proposed site plan, I think you may actually have those poles depicted. There's including, yeah, if I zoom in on your page 5 of your proposed plans, I think you can see both poles are depicted. And so
I believe we had
sort of wonder. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say we have about 18 feet clear from the parking spaces to the poles by moving the parking spaces 2 feet onto the site. So, and then we move the parking spaces 2 feet to the west to try to minimize the conflict.
Scott, you had mentioned that were this to go forward as presented, you would feel compelled to build some kind of barricade to protect your home. What, with Capstone proposing these bollards, I presume steel bollards, is that kind of what you would be thinking of doing anyway?
Thank you very much for asking. It hasn't got to the point yet where I have fully decided the best way to attack that particular problem. Bollards located in an area that is way too tight, that line of bollards will look pretty lousy pretty fast. There'll be people hitting those pretty often. And I think that, you know, if a person just does a little geometry and thinks about things, if you've got 4 9-foot wide spaces, and yes, I realize it's an optimal situation if everybody drives small cars, but there's plenty of people in Tucson that's going to run into those homes that are going to be moved there that could very well have a long bed pickup truck. And if you have a long bed pickup truck in between 2 other cars, that tries to get out or into that space, it's going to take 3 or 4 or 5 different small little adjustments to make that radius. I mean, the math isn't hard to do. And when you're in a situation like that, you're just looking at accidents that are going to happen over and over. And, hitting bollards, that, eventually somebody hits one large enough to where, it gives way. So it's a situation, I understand that there is one more step for the redevelopment to deal with not having 2 parking spots that will not work now and have to do a little bit more work. However, by the same token, the count that's required doesn't take into account whatsoever the 6 places that permits can be acquired to do on-street parking in front of 930 2nd Street, the way that most people in the historical district park in front of their homes. Many, many homes don't have garages or parking places at all. There's parking on street. And so the site plan hasn't looked to that concept a bit. So I believe that trying to avoid one step, which is to lose 2 spots, put 2 there, and recognize all the things that are going on. And I would be more than pleased to be there to help them in any way I can with the city to do said object in the same way. That what we're doing is we're changing one further step in redevelopment for decades of trouble. This is just a trouble spot. Though these 18-foot alleys were not meant to do perpendicular turns into. They were never designed for that. I went over the pictometry aerial photos of the West University Historic District up and down these alleys. And it's not that I saw every single place and know every single thing, but I saw nothing in the entire historical district that compared to the tightness that's trying to be done here.
All right, any other comments from the board or questions? Yeah, Jim.
We do have an on-street parking situation in this particular corner of our neighborhood where we need every off-street parking space we could possibly secure. And I understand Mr. Riggins' concerns with respect to the safety of his building with respect to that. There are no windows facing this situation, so noise isn't necessarily an issue. It's merely a matter of potential hitting it, and that can be easily addressed by, and I don't know how we can codify this, but require back-end parking. You're not going to hit a building when you're doing back-end parking. You're not going to hit a building when a vehicle is pulling out of a parking space nose first. That's a simple solution. We don't have to go further on this. I really don't think, quite frankly, it's a purview of a historic review to be addressing this issue, but those are my comments and my solution. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right. Any other comments?
I was curious if the developers had any comments about the street parking.
This is Chuck at Rick Engineering. This is considered a multi-family development, and you can't count on-street parking without
going through an IPP. I mean, that's not
Right.
common to do an IPP.
So that's why it wasn't included originally.
So you have not. Okay. Yeah, Jim.
We already have issues with the neighbors of Mr. Riggins parking in the public right-of-way on the sidewalk because there isn't sufficient off-street parking for people who've added ADUs without sufficient off-street parking. I feel very, very strongly about this. I will go to the mat. We need to have these spaces. We need to find a way to make them work.
Well, but he's not talking about having no spaces there. He's asking
Yes,
for.
he's saying reducing the number of spaces to solve the problem. He was saying 2 less spaces and go off Jacobus. We can't lose 2 spaces. We need all 4.
I think, I still think that may be a solution of looking at a slanted parking spot. Cause then it's similar to what you were saying, Jim, of back-in parking, and they could do slanted back-in parking or not. Because when I'm like looking at, I just Googled slanted parking dimensions. For like a 60-degree layout, they recommend you only need 14.5 feet for the backing up portion, and you need 20 feet for the parking spot itself. So maybe it would only eliminate 1 spot versus eliminating 2, or, you know, maybe there's just some other little exploration that can be looked at in terms of parking layout.
So this is Chuck. It would eliminate at least 1 space to
Yeah, I know it's
put
not going to be
diagonal,
as
so.
better than eliminating 2 though, or even, you know, 2 perpendicular off. Yeah, I don't know. Just trying to think what would be a solution that could work for everybody. Is there anywhere, can you pull the site plan back up so we can take a peek at it again?
Do we have any members, well, that's being pulled up, that we're going to lose at 8 o'clock? I'm actually conscious of the passage of time here in this particular conversation. Nope. Okay. Is someone calling up the site plan? Noel? Noel's trying.
Muted. There we go. Yes, let me get this, just making sure. I think this is the most current one. A number of, so let's try that one. There we go. So I think a little bigger. So you can kind of see the conditions we're working with here. So these are the spaces we're discussing. I think I would add, and I do appreciate Mr. Riggins' concern. Having lived in Seattle in a fairly urbanized area, fairly tight alleyways, a lot of infrastructure in there. The movement speeds, we're talking of, folks that are moving in and out of these spaces. This isn't like a Walmart parking lot where there's plenty of room to maneuver. So the speeds that folks are moving here is fairly slow. So, bollards are utilized to protect, public infrastructure, utility boxes, things of that nature all the time, where they might experience multiple collisions over time. The other thing would be the lack of parking in the area. So one of the goals would be to obviously make sure there's as much as possible to support the new residents that will be here. And then obviously the impacts to site planning. You start to see there even addressing ADA access to the 12 home becomes challenging if we start angling the parking.
Yeah, you start getting, is there room to fit a spot down here or no? I know that the trash requires a certain amount and all that too. So.
Yeah, this is Chuck. There was a spot there, but that was the solution for the garbage was at that location. So there's no other place with.
I know
they're
really
overhead lines. And...
yeah, trash is picky too. I know.
Believe me, we tried to find as many spots as we could. And...
Yeah, I'm sure you did. That was just.
I do like the back end suggestion. That I think would be something that could be addressed. We could obviously those spaces are controlled by the landowner, and they could sign that and require their tenants to cooperate with that. I don't think that would be something of concern. If I think that would, I agree. I think that would help with that backing motions.
What about a spot like this, this becomes the handicap spot. And then you make this a normal spot and a normal spot. Then you have one that's backing out into this area versus, and they can kind of take up more space. They can park wherever they want within that.
Chuck, thoughts?
I guess that's something we could look at. I'd have to look at the grades. I think they'll be okay.
Because you already have sidewalk happening adjacent to that, so it wouldn't have to change your paving.
We could look at that.
Yeah.
Then you could potentially still drop a couple bollards just for safety. But then, you know, because if someone has to get out of their vehicle on the passenger side, they're not going to pull into it right here. They're going to kind of pull into the middle of that space so they can exit and get out how they want. So that's what's kind of nice about the handicap spots, is it kind of allows them to park in the middle of that if they wanted, and it makes their maneuvering a lot easier in terms of
I would think that if that meets all the dimensional requirements, and as Chuck mentioned, you know, ADA slope, etc., I don't think we'd be adverse to making that type of a change.
then you essentially just have the one on this public alley versus 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you know, we could definitely look at that. You know, again, I can't commit to anything obviously without the engineers doing their work, but you know, we could definitely work with city staff and see if that's an option. Again, as long as we can keep the parking layout and again, not interfere with you know, the grading and drainage and some of the other 15 other layers that Chuck has to deal with when he lays these out.
No, it's never an easy solution, believe me, I know.
Yeah.
Well, just so I'm keeping up with you, Rachel, we'll still wind up losing a parking spot if we do that.
No,
No? Oh, you're saying move. Oh, I see.
Yeah, just
so basically
yeah.
move this unit
Oh, I
to
got
be
it.
happening right here.
Right.
Yeah.
And then these can be accessed this direction. So we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 plus the handicaps unit.
Right.
So it's still the same number of parking. It's just kind of rearranging it.
I think that would be yeah, if that's something that staff city staff can authorize, I think we definitely look at that. Happy to do so. Again, understanding Mr. Riggins' concerns, I think we'd be willing to take a look at that. From a timing perspective, I don't know if that would be, again, not sure if the site plan element from the standpoint of the historic review is part of the actual recommendation, but I can give you my our team would definitely be willing to explore that with city staff, regardless. So not try to hit like
Let me propose because I'd like to move us forward to the buildings themselves. If Rachel, you could perhaps encapsulate what you are thinking in a motion. I would say
is this an agenda item? Do we need a motion on this? Is this
well,
just a
I don't know,
discussion?
Jody. I mean, do you?
Well, do you want, I mean, Noel's prepared to, I would say keep this in your pocket because you want to also get presentation of the rest of the stuff, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I really don't want to spend too much more time on this particular topic, and I'm not entirely sure, other than us maybe suggesting that Capstone go explore some of the things we're thinking about. This is kind of a little. It's important. It's certainly important, not only for Mr. Riggins, but you know, for how the whole site is laid out. But no matter what solution we're talking about, it's not going to change where the buildings are going to go.
I would suggest that you have a presentation on, I mean, because there was other items that you guys had discussed at the courtesy review to see how they've resolved those. And then at the end, have a motion for this site. You can take these out of order. I think I had 548 first and then this one second. but you can do the presentation for this one and then have the parking issue as part of that motion. That's your prerogative.
Or I could do a motion now and we can move on. Or no.
If you, yeah, you can do a motion now. You just want to be careful about making sure that the motion only pertains to the parking. The other issue, if I mean, there's something else that comes up and you start messing around with the site, then
Got
you've
it.
already
Okay,
approved the
then
parking
let's-
at that point.
Okay, let's hold off then.
All
Okay.
right. So given that, perhaps to your point, Jody, we'll take things a little bit out of order and talk about 812 first. The existing unit on the other side of those parking spaces isn't moving no matter what. So let's just start with 812 and move down the list.
All right. Well,
Noel, if you
Chairman Thomas,
flex to 812.
we've got 812 package here.
Chairman McDonald, could I just say one finisher?
Sure, Scott.
I could absolutely support the concept of that was proposed to have 2 parking spaces opening onto Jacobus and a single ADA spot there, because it takes away the incredible tightness and maneuvering that's tried to be being done. The ADA spot makes it to where it ceases to be the circus it might be. So I could certainly see that to be a solution to the tightness that has been already designed into that. And I am encouraged by the suggestion of it. And I thank the association very much. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Scott.
welcome.
All right. So Chairman, members of me, since the time is short, you have 2 documents for each one of the houses. One is kind of just the kind of the overview stuff. We went through that. There weren't really comments or concerns that I heard on that. So I'll go right to the kind of the meat of it, which is the actual relocation package itself.
That's what I prefer.
Since this has the details, and I think that's where we should spend our time. So unless there's any questions on those, I'll focus on these. So in going through everything, what you'll see is the landscaping plan that addressed some questions about the landscaping. Again, this will all meet code, has the planter types, as well as adding some of the retaining wall detail in the lower portion here that I'm again happy to go over. But essentially, there is a retaining wall that exists out there on Second Ave today that will have to come down so that the houses can be moved up the site. So that'll be rebuilt to match the kind of current look it has today, which is basically a concrete retaining wall. Nothing particularly special, but we do have that detail there if there's any questions on it. Again, the overall elevation of all the homes on the site, this has all been updated to match all the current updated elevations and the floor plan as well. And what we did, as we discussed, was a few things, was adding the location of mechanical equipment. So you'll see that clouded on, and you'll see this in each plan. So when you're looking at it in plan view, you see the location of the rooftop mounted equipment. All of the what I call kind of ancillary mechanical, so window air conditioners. There's some couple of them I think have some swamp coolers that are window swamp coolers. All of those go away. The homes will be moved with the rooftop mechanical that is there, and then depending on the condition of that mechanical, would be either repaired or replaced depending on the condition of it. But all the homes will then be air conditioned going forward, so there'll be no more need for window units or anything of that. So they'll have master air conditioning. So. And then you'll also see, and this schedule shows up in a couple places, and I won't bore you with the details on it. But if there's any questions, happy to dig into it. But there's the door schedule and the window schedules that were requested, detailing out the material and the widths, heights, type, as well as the finishing, and then the additional comments as far as repair and maintenance. And then as far as the elevations go, we continued that theme on the exterior material schedule. So you'll notice the additional call outs, again, the windows, tying back to that, the clouding for the mechanical location has been added, all of the chimneys, as one of the items that we discussed last time was the to the extent that any of them are some of them are functional or not functional, they'll be replicated. So if, for example, that interior one's not a functional, won't be a functional fireplace, with the new location, it would still have the chimney remaining on the top and restored. So it'll still have the appearance it has today. And then additional detailing on the each one of the site elevations. So the detail on the foundation has been updated to reflect the wall type condition that they're going to construct. And you can see the steel beam system. So essentially, the way these homes are moved is the beams are slid underneath. They're then moved on those beams, and then those beams, a majority of those beams are retained in place. So there'll be then the foundation itself, and then the beams nesting, and similar to this design here. And then you'll see on the later houses, the ones that have the stone details, we've added those notes as well. And then you can see the location of some of the ventilation, because this type of foundation design does require some ventilation for code compliance. So you'll notice those have been added as well. And then the photographs, again, have been updated accordingly. We've detailed out particularly the porches and the column details of things that are going to be need to be reconstructed. Particularly of import for 812. There was a lot of questions about this roof structure for the patio and how we're going to restore it and some of the structural concerns. After hearing that, we went back to the moving company, and they were able to devise a solution to actually reinforce those and move that element with the house. So that won't have to come off. So I think that took away a number of questions there were about, again, how that was going to be reconstructed. That will move with the home and will be there. So we won't have to worry about the need to reconstruct. And then the actual porch itself will be reconstructed in accordance with the details. And we also detailed out some of the elements that would be removed. So, for example, the shed canopy element that's on the back of this house is not a contributing element. It's bolted on at one point that was removed. And so we added those notes accordingly. And then again, there's some additional details on that porch truss system. In the contemplation of moving it. In this case, since we're going to keep it, that's there, but we kept that as part of the record just in case there's any need, anything gets damaged or something, we have a reference material for that. So with that, I'm happy to go into some more detail on tables or questions on the elevations or the plan for 812.
So in summary, your window schedules are going to reflect the historically existing conditions, right? The double hung windows as they are, the whole dimension, the window dimensions all the same, doors the same, doors all made of wood. And the material for the windows are going to be all, I see wood, so not clad wood windows, but actually wood windows. No?
Yes, Chairman Donald, the intent would be that for this particular house, the windows are all in pretty good condition from the sense of being able to rehabilitate. So the goal would be everything's stable. These houses move relatively slow, about 2 miles an hour as they move. So to the extent there's any glass glazing or any issues there, obviously those would be that'd be cured. But the goal would be to retain the existing windows and rehab those, refinish them, clean them up, and get them back to original condition. This one does have one triple on window that was a casement steel, I believe. Let's see, that one's referencing E, which I believe was the ones on the rear, because this home has I believe it was the rear elevation. Let's see, there they are. And this one that does have these have steel casements that were put in probably 40s era, I think was the thinking on those. So those would just be obvious, that would be painted and rehab, but they'd be retained because we don't have a reference for this portion of the house that we could establish what the original condition would have been. So the intent would be is this element would go, but the casements would remain and be painted and cleaned up. and the
And
rest
then-
of the windows.
Since we've had the courtesy review, your engineers have determined that you can actually move the porch without disassembling it.
Correct. That was a important conversation that we had with the mover, and essentially the way this is designed, they can bring some steel beams back in, cantilever them back into the structure, which will allow that roof to stay up and replace its current points on those on the porch, so that would stay in place. And then once they move, they would reconstruct the porch, and then those reinforcement element come off, and it'd be back on the base the way it is now. So he was confident that wouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Comments, questions from the board on 812? No? What I'd like to do is, for each one of these, just to tie a knot in it, let's wrap up the conversation on 812, make a motion on whether we're okay, not okay, or any comments, and then move on to the next one.
Right.
So,
And Chairman McDowell, sorry to interrupt. Also, just for everybody's reference, we did spend a bunch of time going through the last the informational presentation, made a matrix of all the comments, and really spent a lot of time going through them. So I'm happy to go through that. I'm sure you probably don't want to, but we did make sure we went through and heard every comment and made sure that we could point to things in the plan that did address them. So I do think we captured everything, but if there's anything we're missing, please let me know.
For
Happy
us,
to go through that if you want to.
we were certainly concerned about the truss on this porch. You addressed that. We're concerned with all of them about the retention of the chimneys, whether they're functional or not. You addressed that. In this particular case, of this particular house, you're going to rehab the existing windows. So there's, that's would always be a concern. Can you show us what are you doing with the door? I see a security door in these pictures, and I just don't know what the underlying door is. It's a wood.
Yeah, so the security door is going to be removed, and the front door would be refurbished. And I don't think we have a picture of the door, but I believe Roger had looked at it, and it was somewhat ornate. You kind of see a little bit in there, but it's not a standard door. It's got some glazing in there, and it's got a little bit of a detail. So that was going to be.
Are you proposing doors that have some kind of lights on them? Windows.
I believe this one has. Let me see. Yeah, looks like this thing will let me get up to. There it is. I thought Brad.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Yeah, I was just looking. Sorry, I knew we had a drawing of it somewhere because it's that. Oops, I'm sorry. This is my PDF wants to bounce around. Let me try it this way. There we go. So this one here, that door is
that's what you're proposing for the door. Yep.
Yeah, and I believe that's actually the door that exists behind. That's number one, which is the. Do I show some of that other page? But that would be the more appropriate door for that structure.
All right. Any other comments? Questions from the board? All right, hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry.
Move we accept 812 as presented.
Well, that's what I'm asking, I guess.
I just made a motion.
That was, yeah, this is Rachel, Sarah, I second.
Okay. Sorry. All right, we have a motion. Sorry, I'm writing, talking at the same time. And we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Bye.
Okay. All right, 812. I think we're good. Thank you, Noel.
No problem. We'll move on to 814 then with your permission. And again,
sure.
Same package, same landscape plan, so nothing really to talk about there. Same overall section. Again, same notes, updated the mechanical, the window schedules, etc. here there was the conversation a lot about the stonework. So we've added additional notes, as well as you can see here in that foundation detail. There's two conditions where there is not the stone treatment and where there is the stone treatment. So we have the detailing for that, as well as making sure that they inlay that so that there's sufficient room for the stone to be applied to the exterior, again to mimic that the look of it being a pure stone foundation. And then we have again updated the notes, and one of the other concerns we had was this is a non-contributing element, so we've identified that as an element that would be removed. This little patio piece and this element here was not going to go, and that's all been identified. This little addition here was also identified for removal. This little pop out, you can see the roof line change there. And then here again, it's got the security door condition that will go. You can kind of see the door on this one a little better behind it. But I believe that also shows up in the elevation. So that's a 8-light door there. Again, the windows, pretty much, I believe all of these are in good condition. Let's just go to window schedule. And again, all wood painted. So these will all be, again, the same idea. They'll all be kept sanded, painted, and restored back. I don't think we have any non-original ones that were identified. So they're all double hung. And we also added the information on coloring. So for example, on addressing the stucco, one of the things that we did add was related to color, was dealing with, I was just looking for the note, but there is a note regarding for the grout for the contractor is to basically, there is the contractor essentially on the porch is to document, keep some pieces of the actual concrete and do a field match to that when they ordered the concrete. We have some color. Some of it's kind of standardized, but the places where the colors are a little bit unique, particularly when it comes to the mortar that was used. It's kind of hard to spec a specific mortar without going kind of sitting there looking. So one of the things they'll have to do is document that, keeping a piece and showing that they've got mimicking with the inspector as part of that. The plan package, so that we could get something that matches as close to the existing as what's available in the marketplace. So we added that element as well. And again, mechanical, we added the chimney details to this one. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on 814.
I'm fine. Any questions from the board? Okay.
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Can we have someone make a motion?
This is Rachel Sarah. I motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Whatever number
Jim
it was,
Clark.
814.
814.
Like, what number was it?
I'm keeping
will
track.
second for
Okay,
814.
good.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any conversation, dialogue? No, hearing none. All in favor, aye.
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 Lou, are you there still?
Aye, yes.
Aye, okay, sorry, didn't hear. All right, that one is approved.
I'll move to 818 with your permission, sir.
818, okay.
All right. Again, same details here as the prior packages. Again, with this one, again, the same notes and information were added. The window schedule here and the door schedule here. There is I believe a new door was number 4, which I was trying to find where he called that out. I don't think it was the back door. So there'll be the other doors will be rehabbed and stained. The windows all are double hung or fixed. They're all wood. So again, the same kind of condition there. And then the additional detail on this one, particularly relating to some questions we had regarding kind of the back piece. So it looks like the patio might have been enclosed at some point. So there's a wood detail or wood fascia on the back, and you can see it in these elevations, but I'll take you to the photos. And so for that, in going through the reference materials that are available, Sanborn maps, we couldn't find anything particular that addressed, let's see, why is this thing hopping around? Sorry. That addressed that material and whether or not, when it was added. So view that as sort of an existing element that we're going to carry forward. So the wood would be sanded and repainted and cleaned up. And the windows would all be sanded and repaired as well. They believe they were the windows in the backside were also I don't think those were also wooden, so double hung. Yeah, those were all wood as well. So they're fairly old. We just don't know exactly when those were put in. And so that information was updated there, and then we also have the detailing on the there it is on the porch wall detailing and the column detailing again, because that has to all be reconstructed. The porch in particular is kind of an interesting item to reconstruct. The air conditioners, we have the notes on those, and we added additional notes on the repairing and replacing the glass, and then the non-original door, the non-original element. This, I believe it was the door was not, and so we're looking at getting something more along the lines of those ones, which I think he noted up in here. So we have all of those captured as well. So there we go. So the kind of shows them the elevation, but you can see the door there.
Could you go back to the photo of the door?
Oh, Jim, sorry.
Am I muted?
Yeah, there we go.
No, the photo of the existing door. The photograph. Thank you. And right there, east elevation, formerly north. The door that I have on my house is not all that different, and that little bit of the sill work that you see there, that could very well be an original door. So at least from I live in a cheap bungalow. I don't live in a hoi polloi one. I don't have any built-in woodwork or anything, but the door is something nice, and that doesn't seem too far off from mine. But I will defer to the architects on the board to see whether or not they want to something different. So
yeah, just to clarify too, Jim, the door I was talking about is that east elevation.
Oh, I'm
east
sorry.
elevation door. Yeah, if you kind of look at him, you can kind of see he's like a 4-panel type of door. It kind of looks suspicious. So I think the intent would be to find something more appropriate. So.
Oh, when you zoom in on it, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing with those lights isn't the actual door. That's
it's a the screen is a
screen. Yeah.
It has those panels and then the door beyond. So we were gonna
that door does not look original.
Somewhere in the last 100 years or so, apparently somebody fell through it.
So you're gonna, with the columns for the porch, it looks like from the cross section, you're gonna have, I don't know, CMU or something, and then the river rock is going to be a facade around that structural element. I don't see what are you doing with the chimney?
Oh, the chimney is single work. So the chimney, so basically the notes call out for the chimney to be deconstructed, salvaged, and reconstructed. There's obviously not movable. And so we have some details captured for that.
Your intent is to rebuild what you have. It's not going to have interior structure with the stone being a facade like you're talking about for the columns.
I think to your question, I think the plan for the they actually reconstruct, and Brad, our architect's on, but Brad, I suspect that's going to require some sort of a base. I don't know if that would pass building code these days as far as trying to make it all self-sustaining. I'm assuming we have to build some sort of a masonry element and then apply the stone to that, or how would you envision that working?
Yeah, I think that's our assumption, is that there is going to be, similar to the porch, there's going to be some sort of masonry box for that.
Okay. And Brad, it'll still be a functional chimney and fireplace when it's done?
I believe that's the intent, as I understand it, to make that a functional chimney.
Yeah. So Jeremy McDonald, like for example, I'm kind of behind me here, but I've got a 60s house, so it has a masonry chimney. And so I could see actually doing that kind of treatment. If you put a faux element on it, it worked very well. So.
Okay.
Is there a reason you guys didn't call that out on the drawing, since you called out the foundation?
Brad, is there any particular retail we don't have a detail for that, or was the?
If I might comment, it does say primary cobblestone chimney to be deconstructed, salvaged, and rebuilt a new location. I can't only believe that cobblestone is a facade over a brick chimney. There's no way you could have a cobblestone chimney.
Is all you guys. It's just that I see, porch wall detail, cross-sectional drawing here, and I don't see the same sort of thing for the chimney, and I just wondered why.
Sorry, Rick. Thank you.
Well, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason we don't know exactly what that looks like under the cobblestone, whereas I think we had a pretty clear understanding dimensionally of how the porch wall would look, so we included that detail in there to make sure that was reconstructed appropriately.
Okay. Well, I think your intent
I think we would sort of.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Damon.
I was just going to say, I think the board would probably take the position that the chimney is like an important architectural detail that we want conserved. So I guess it seems to me like it might make sense to have its own detail in the drawing, because it's got some sort of like interesting tapers and stuff.
Right.
And I think you want to recreate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. And obviously this was a time, but if the board was amenable to the 818 plan with a stipulation we can have Brad detail that and present that to Jody for approval if that was amenable to everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, to echo or what Damon said, it's from our point of view, it is a very significant architectural detail. And although I'm not going to tell you how to do your engineering, we are not wanting that detail, that style, that design to be modified to accommodate structural things. So it's got to you got to have thought through how it's all going to come together and look like that. And I'm kind of hearing a little bit, maybe from Brad, that until you take it apart, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Brad, that a safe statement?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the intent aesthetically is we're going to match the existing condition that you see today.
Yeah, and I think we just want to foot stomp the word intent and maybe say requirement to be a little stickler for it.
We're amenable to that, Chairman. I have no issue with that. That would be our intent. Again, is to get that reconstructed. So when you walk by, you're not going to not be able to tell we reconstructed it.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions from the board?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
What number is that?
This is 818.
818, as presented with the stipulation that more detail is added to make sure the architectural significance of the chimney is conserved.
This is Rachel Sarah, I second.
1 second. I'm not as fast at writing as I'd like to be. All right, Rachel second. We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think we got it. All right. So where do we want to go?
With information, Chairman, 1036 would be the
1036.
last placement house. So I'm happy to run you through that real quick.
Okay.
All righty. Similar as the other packages. Again, added the detail on that mechanical equipment, and the there's a in this one there was a what appeared to definitely not be an original opening. I think as everyone looked at that. So we have spec'd that out. Added the note here again regarding that existing door, and then specking in a like replacement that would be a wood product to match the other window that's there, so that we would have a restored opening there. Show you that guy here, and that would be at that location. Let's see, that guy's hiding.
Where are you? Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Brad, I'm getting myself turned around here. Let me actually go to the photos
Yeah,
first.
that's the east elevation.
East? Okay, it's this window right here, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think we missed a
And you-
call out on that one, Brad.
You
I
can
just noticed that. That one's the 1-8.
So
compare that to the existing photo.
yeah, show me
Yeah,
the
so if we go to
video.
so the photo.
Oh,
is
so you're saying there's a
there.
window missing?
Yeah, it's-
Oh, it was turned into.
Yeah, it's this door right here. We talked about this a bit. Was this you can see they kind of added this little stoop, and this window is evidenced by the kind of sudden loss of the sill
Right.
there.
Okay,
Which
so your
if you
intent
look at
is
the other,
put a window back there and get rid of that stoop.
yeah, we
And
we'd
then
have to
extend
bring
the
that
sill.
bring the sill across, so that would restore that, so it would look what we expect to have been the original condition before that door was cut through there.
Okay, got it.
And then on this one, I know some discussion about our mover initially thought they might need to trim some of the roof element. They've gone back and looked at that, and that won't be necessary. So everything, we don't have to worry about the roof
Oh.
feature either.
Okay.
So we again put him to task with a few things, and so he was able to go back over through the move route and is confident that that he'll be fine. So we've got that element addressed. Again, additional detailing on these columns that will be again, the roof element here will stay with the house. We never didn't worry about that, but we do have the column elements that would be relocated, and again some more details on the.
You're going to brace the roof. The columns
Yeah.
are going to be moved or taken out and then reinstalled when you get it over there. Yeah.
Yes, these columns, we've got the one is a stuck over brick column, and the other one's a precast
Mhm.
column. So that one should be movable. They'll reconstruct the block one.
Okay.
And they again added the window details and whatnot, and the foundation details, and then here's the additional column detail as well. So again, we have that.
Is this the house that has a basement?
Basement.
I know one of the ones on Euclid, I don't remember if it was this one or the one next to it that you're not moving has a basement.
I think it might be the retained one
The retained one,
that
okay.
has the basement.
So this is just sitting on a slab?
This one's on this one's on a foundation. It's got the vent openings.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
yeah, all these have a crawl space.
so it's a pier and beam like the other ones?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
and that foundation will be the same steel beam approach with the stuff. And then you can see the vent, the guide of the vent collapse as well. Colors and materials on the shingles, and there was a question on that, so we added that information as well. So happy to take any questions on 1036.
All right. No questions?
I just have one comment. I don't know if I'm looking at the plans online.
Mhm.
And on your final page, there's some comments about that door that used to be a window. And I think they're inconsistent with your latest plan. So I don't know if there's a version issue and I'm looking at an older version, or you just need to update your final page. But it talks about existing door to be replaced, existing stairs and partial height.
Oh, to be demolished and rebuilt. Yeah, that should be.
Oh, yeah.
That actually is wrong. Yes, good catch. Yeah, that should be that should actually reference that being just demolished. It won't be reconstructed. So
all right. So your drawings are correct, but the comments on this are not.
yeah. So on the east elevation photo, we'll make that change there. That note's incorrect. Kind of goes to all the different names of these. You look at them enough, it starts to read the same. So my apologies for the typo there.
No problem.
Yeah. Thanks, Damon. All right. Any other comments, questions? All right. May I have a motion?
This is Damon. I motion to approve as presented.
This is Jim Glock. I will second as presented.
Okay. A motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Awesome.
Right. With your permission, then, Mr. Chairman, the last item for this lot would be the 930 back demo. Be happy to walk through that.
Yes, go right ahead.
So this one,
It's not the last one, though, by the way. I don't think we ever covered 1040.
Correct. That'll be the 548 site. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
So
this
many
lot,
addresses.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been confusing the planning staff on all our submittals. I've got so many numbers. So on this one, the real big change here was we did a little bit of exploratory work actually over the last weekend, and wanted to figure out what was back in there. We suspected that there was a window there because of that bookshelf, which you can see in the middle of this, which kind of lined up. But once we started tearing into the wall, Joel had a fun-filled, dust-filled weekend doing a little exploring, and was able to find actually the original header element. And that header element basically lines up with the window that would be, oops, went over to the side there, the sister window that's on the other elevation. So in looking at that, it seemed most appropriate to make a good educated guess on this one that that window would have matched on the other corner of the room, which we then updated into our plans so that you have instead of the one window that we originally thought was there, anticipating exploring. Given the fact that we were able to get that open, we decided to spec in a window that matched the window that is on the other.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So that was our best guess at it. We thought would be the most appropriate condition for this structure. I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Everybody following that?
Yep.
I do appreciate you guys ripping the plaster off and looking.
It wasn't too hot, was it, Joel?
So those windows will be new windows. You'll have to purchase those. Are you gonna have in the window schedule? Are those just regular wood windows?
Yeah, we were specing in a wood window, painted finish, double hung to
Double hung.
match.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and the rest of it would be stuck to match the exterior of the house.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Any other, Damon?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay.
I motion to approve as presented.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that it on this one?
That's it.
All right, looks great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
also appreciate you guys opening it up and finding that. So Damon, did you make a motion?
No, he did.
Did
make
I
a
cut you off?
I did. Approve as
Okay.
presented.
I second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
I approve, Jim Glock.
Aye.
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 All right, I got it. Thank you. All right, last item. We are going to finish on time. Gosh darn it. Let's go back to 1040 Euclid.
Briefly, Chairman, sorry to interrupt, but did we want to address the parking motion since that had to do with this lot, just to finish this discussion up before we moved over to
yeah.
48?
Probably. Jim, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I thought I think people will understand my perspective here. So I'm thinking is that, we approved any modification of the parking that may be able to accommodate Mr. Riggins' desires to the extent that no parking spaces are lost. That's my motion.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I guess mostly from a discussion standpoint, I don't know why we're weighing in on this. If the city approved it as written, this is an aesthetic neighborhood, and accommodating that homeowner is a discussion item as opposed to a requirement, in my view.
So if, Jim, did you motion? Was that a motion you made?
Oh, I made a motion. We need a second to be able to discuss it.
Yeah, we need a
Oh.
second before we can discuss. Sorry, Lou.
Yeah.
And a second doesn't mean you vote on it. A second just means you discuss it.
Lou Spetnagle, I second the motion.
Thank you.
All right, let's discuss for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So again, since I made the motion, let me just offer a perspective. There is a dearth of parking in this neighborhood. Yes, we survived with on-street parking for almost a century now, but that's not the way the world is. ADUs are coming into existence and there are some problematic ADUs that are neighbors of Mr. Riggins, and I apologize for that. You don't have the best neighbors with respect to their parking habits. And that is reflective in my comments. If that had not been the case, I might be easier on you, but they're criminally parking on the sidewalk area when they could very well park on the street, and they're not. They could very well have accommodated parking on their property, and they are not. we can accommodate parking on this property, maybe with some concerns on your part, which I believe that the team is prepared to mitigate. I am not willing to back down on the number of parking spaces that is being asked of, and I am not willing to have them have to make significant changes in their plans to reduce the number of parking spaces. I think the comments made tonight with respect to moving the parking spaces around, shuffling where the handicap ones are accommodating, the back end parking will accommodate. I think we have your concerns addressed. And I would like to just be on the record to state that we accept the parking plan as presented and to accommodate your concerns to the extent possible, but with no loss of on-street parking. And so that's the nature of my motion, and that's kind of the basis of it. And if the rest of the board doesn't support that perspective, so be it. But I'm on the traffic committee for the neighborhood. I'm fighting these parking issues day in, day out. It's a hoary issue that you brought up, and I just gotta put my sword in the sand or whatever the phrase is. So thank you. I'll shut up.
I don't agree. I think it's really important. This is Sarah. I think it's really important that we accommodate this gentleman. And I think that if the engineers come back and say that they can eliminate a parking spot and do back in and move the handicap spot and keep him happy, I think that that's a win-win. I think there are going to be people who are not going to be happy on any side of the coin, but when you've got a homeowner whose bedroom can be slammed into by some idiot, I think we need to take that into consideration and be respectful of it.
Well, if you're going to go down that path, let me point out that the homeowner's property address is in Coolidge, that this is actually an ADU that he's speaking of, that it's property, at least when you look at the plans that were prepared when it was originally built, it's got a separate address. I just think that off-street parking should be accommodated to the extent possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand your point, but you need to understand mine.
Hey, I don't think we should spend this 5 minutes with the two of you arguing, so I'd like to offer my views. So I'd like to go on the record opposing Jim's view as well. I know what you're saying with some of the on-street parking on East First Street, east of the property we're talking about. But North 2nd Avenue does not have parking problems. I walk down North 2nd Avenue almost nightly, and there's almost never on-street parking used on North 2nd Avenue on this block. And so I agree that it's important because we're putting so many houses on this one property to accommodate parking. I agree with that part of what Jim is saying, but asking them to lose one parking spot and consider replacing it with on-street parking, I do not believe is too much to ask. And I recognize there's a process you would have to go through to do that, and that's probably a pain in the butt. But I think the gentleman from the neighborhood who spoke up has valid concerns, and I don't think it's too much to ask for us to accommodate him. That's my
So I just want to cut in and say that if they swap the parking, as I suggested, and put the ADA spot on the alley, they're not losing any spots. It's going to be the same number of spots presented. They don't need to do any on-street parking. I think we would just be requesting them to relook at their engineering layout. And I don't think that that is unreasonable.
I don't disagree with that, Rachel. I was just saying that I don't think it should be off the table that one of the solutions is that they lose one parking spot and have to account for on-street parking.
No, I agree with that, but I also think that there's a solution present, and they just need to adjust their plans to reflect that.
Good point.
So if I may modify a little bit of what both of you have said, then our preference would be to consider Rachel's proposal and perhaps salvage having all of parking be off street. However, if that doesn't work from an engineering point of view, perhaps one on-street parking is okay. And I don't know how many allocations this parcel has, but I'm sure it's more than one. Which, by the way, I just point out that irrespective of anything we say here, that those parcels are going to have a couple or more PPP permits that they're going to get, and they could park on the street if they want to.
Well, and they're also technically already meeting the letter of the code, so we don't actually have a foot to stand on. We are requesting them to make this change without any sort of code backing.
Right.
And so I think that us just requesting, so I wrote down what I thought we should say to simplify.
Okay, why don't you help me and
Yeah.
let's just take it. 5 minutes is
So,
up. and I
hold
would
on.
like to-
Yeah.
I think we have to vote.
Do we have to
You
vote
have
on
a
the first
motion on the
motion?
table. So you
Okay.
have a motion on the table, so Jim can withdraw the motion, which I think may not happen.
Don't smile. It's
You
like the
can,
Cheshire Cat.
you can vote on it. If it fails, then you can make another motion.
All right. Thank you, Jody. I appreciate that. So we do have a motion and we did have a second. And we had our discussion. All in favor of the motion, aye. Well, Jim, you should say aye. Thank you. All right, there we go. All opposed? Nay.
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 May I have a new motion, Rachel?
Yes, I'm going to, so this might not be the motion yet, so I'm just gonna let it speak. So swap existing ADA spots with the 2 spots that are the westernmost parking spots on the alley. Then reorient the remaining 2 easternmost parking spots to have access from Jacobus.
No, makes sense. So you're gonna take the ADA that's currently on Jacobus, you're gonna move it over to the
To
unnamed.
the westernmost alley spots. So swap the existing ADA spots with the 2 westernmost spots along the
Westernmost.
alley. And then reorient the remaining 2 spots along the alley to have access from Jacobus.
Oh, reorient them, not just diagonally, but actually.
No, like
90.
90 degrees. They're 18 by
90
9. They should be able to they would fit in the same footprint.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Noel, are you trying to say something?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Chairman,
Violating
just,
my 5 minutes.
yeah, just I'll make it brief. We're amenable to exploring that. There's just 2 caveats I just want the board to be considering. Is one is
We need a second before you can discuss.
Yeah, and even before we get a second and we discuss, I just offer in the interest of time here, we're an advisory board, so this may all be.
It already
This
meets
is-
code. They can't do anything about it. So
Right. So
So
if I
can we have
may-
the second?
This is
We have a
Sarah
second.
Fajardo. I'm trying to second.
Thank you,
Sarah
sir.
seconds.
Good Lord.
We have a motion and a second.
so now we can discuss.
Now we can discuss. I hate to say that, but we can.
if Chairman, if it helps any at all, we are more than willing to explore that option. Again, the only concern I would have is one is if there was a reduction in parking that required any sort of discretionary approval, we couldn't agree to that. That would be problematic. And then obviously conformance with any standards of the city. So I think our rough drawing is great, and Chuck will work hard to make that work. But if in the event we can't get approved by the city for either the transportation department for some reason, or in that case, we couldn't agree to that. So I was hoping to be some flexibility in that recommendation that would be subject to staff approval. And that would give that's flexibility just in case we can't do that. But we do intend to make that change. Sarah's suggestion, I think made a lot of sense.
Okay.
Do you want to consider rewording your motion to
include staff approval?
Well, to reflect what Noel's saying, that, you encourage it, and
We appreciate that it is not a guaranteed solution. Right? Is that sort of the idea? Is that they're going to do their best to accommodate that?
sure.
That we-
Sarah, do you agree to that modification?
Yes.
Well, hold on here. That's fine. I agree. I'm not just agreeing. I'm just trying to go back to my notes here. So
We need somebody on the board who does shorthand.
Not it.
Is that
Can you
are you
imagine?
volunteering, Sarah?
I never learned it. Otherwise, it's sure, but nope, don't know it.
Okay, so we'll
You
have
date
to.
yourself to know what shorthand is.
Yeah,
I
well,
think everybody here knows what shorthand is. Okay, so we're just modifying this to say that within the. I'm sorry, Rachel. Say your modification one more time. Just a couple words.
What was my modification? That basically we know it's not guaranteed. Like it's subject to staff, subject to staff approval.
Subject to staff, yes, subject to staff approval.
And
to staff and engineering approval.
Yeah, I think
yes, that sounds good.
Staff
I said that's what I said.
Yes. Okay.
yeah, those engineers are pretty important.
They are very important. Okay, we have a modified motion, a modified second. We've had a lot of discussion. All in favor? Aye.
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 So Jim is no, all others aye. Motion passes. Okay.
All righty, Jeremy, if it's your pleasure, 5:48, and then we'll get everybody on to their night.
Go for it.
All righty. Yeah, looks vaguely familiar. Same package approach that we had prior. The only difference here, I apologize, it resizes, but the site plan is just a little different because the site plan for one home is like a residential plot plan, not a full development plan. So it's a grading plan and site plan combo, which is why there's a little bit of a difference there. But again, the housing orientating north and east, as we discussed prior. We've also included the landscaping plan, which primarily here is focused around revegetation and the native plant and trying to identify the ones that are to be transplanted, which we had a couple there that are in that plan and a couple that looks like had to be, actually we had one destroyed. So we kept 3 and lost 1. And the rest will be planted to city standard. The site plan, again, added those notes regarding the mechanical equipment as well as the non-original door and window detail that was on the one patio that we discussed for a bit there. That will be on the, now it'll be on the north side of the home. The windows again here, wood painted, again, they're all in pretty good condition. The elevations, as you can see here, calling out that the various details, window details we discussed before as well, the mechanical equipment, and then that area where the door was going to be replaced was on the, and this is where I go back to Brad and go, I'm getting my orientation disorganized here, but that element was on the,
it's on the north elevation.
Elevation former south. That was the piece that's right in between these, in this space right here was that extra door that was there. And then the, there's a little bit of an error on this one too, Brad. We'll have to pick up is that lintel drawing line that shows up in the visual is not showing up in the black and white. So that needs to be added to that. But the intent would be that that would be restuccoed in the, that detail. It's a little faded there, but you can see the sill detail will be carried back across. And then we updated the drawings too, to kind of make clear the porch going beyond here was a little confusing, the part of drawings, so we clarified that. Foundation detail, again, updated to reflect the detailing of the patio, the foundation with the reclaimed stone. Again, the site photos, and you can see specifically that's the door that we were discussing was this element here at this door and window. So that'll just be removed, stuccoed, and then this sill carried across to match what we thought would be the original condition. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
All right, no questions from the board? With that, may I have a motion?
40 as presented.
May I have a second?
Bruce Spetnagel, I second.
This is Damon, I second.
Presented.
Oh, I think Lou beat you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Nope.
Oh, I love that. All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Did I hear you, Rachel?
Maybe not, but I said it. Aye.
Aye, all right, thank you. We have, all right.
I think we got you done before 8 PM, sir.
Well, we're not done yet, but we're gonna get there. All right, thank you. All right, that concludes item 4 on the agenda. Item 5, staff updates. Jody, any staff updates?
I was making sure I wasn't on pause. No, just as an FYI, I will be out on vacation in theory.
Theory?
Yes. June 25th through July 10th. But Michael, yeah, I'm sure I'm still gonna have my laptop and my phone with me. Michael will be available if you need anything from him. Also, this project to move it along and from much pressure, we'll be going to the plans review subcommittee on Thursday. I would greatly appreciate it if you could just get the motions to me, Rick, prior to Thursday.
I can do that. Yep.
Just the motions. And then, which were mostly pretty easy, except for the parking.
It's not a real motion. Well, I mean, it's a motion, but it's
a motion. You had a
it's
you
a
had
motion.
and a
It's a
second.
real motion. It's a real motion. It's just
Okay,
not-
that's enough.
Sorry.
We're not
I'm
talking
done.
about the parking anymore.
Yeah, so that's pretty much only the staff updates.
Okay, and then future agenda items. I know there's more to come with Capstone.
Yeah, so we will have a courtesy review tentatively scheduled for July 16th. That'll be for the new construction at Euclid and Speedway. And then we'll also have a review for 1030 North Euclid. There is an addition that's attached to the back of that house. And so I have requested that they actually go for the full review because it's attached.
Okay.
And there's some work that they're gonna have to do on the backside to fix the existing building. So those will be
You said
coming
the July
along
review is going to be a courtesy review?
for the new construction. Yeah, for the new
okay.
construction of the site. So then they will be coming likely through in August for their formal review, tentatively.
Okay. Okay.
As staff updates, sorry, I did send out to everybody the relevancy guidebook for historic
yes.
preservation. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I would appreciate it. It's a good read, got lots of good information on it. If you are going to the Historic Preservation Conference that is happening in Prescott next week, the lady who wrote that relevancy guidebook is their plenary speaker.
Oh.
So it was, and I went to a webinar and it was a really good webinar. So
I have a question, Jody, about so when a project gets approved and say that they're not able to get permits right away because of delays, what is the process for like renewing an approval? Do you go through the whole process again, or is it like a less of a?
no, you can usually get an extension. So if
Okay.
it doesn't happen right away, you can get an extension. However, if you somehow suddenly change your mind about the design and you want something different, then you have to come back through the process.
No, that makes sense. No, this is more of a slow decisions on the clients with the structural engineer, and then the structural engineer took forever, and now we finally have plans to submit, but it's like, I think our deadline passed like a month ago for a year.
Usually they're pretty, what's the phrase I'm looking? Freehanding? No, that's not it. I'm really bad. I should hold on to the cliche book. They're generous with the extensions. They're not like stingy with them. So
Okay,
you just have
that's
to
good to hear. Okay, I just wasn't sure, is it, if it's not something that necessarily goes through you, then it would be zoning?
It's
Like, it's up
typically
to them?
zoning, yeah, and then it may be something that we need to restamp, if that's the
Gotcha.
case.
Okay.
So then it would come back to us, but not necessarily back through the advisory board and the plans review subcommittee. Unless there was a change.
There's no changes, it's just life.
Damn life,
I know, it's hard.
always gets in the way.
Well, you enjoy your vacation and
Thank you.
stay off, put that laptop away, don't bring it with you
Sure.
wherever you're going. Hopefully you're going somewhere.
Yeah. Cool, and that's it. I don't have anything
Okay.
else to update.
Awesome. All right, it is 7:57 PM, 3 minutes ahead of schedule, and we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for all your time with this very
Everyone.
complicated project. I'm so glad. I thank you all very much. And Jody too, for all of your help. Again, this has been a lot of work. I really appreciate everybody's time. This has been a great process.
All right, we will see you
Thank
again.
you.
We'll be back.
Have a good night.
All
All
right,
right,
everybody.
good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.